What is up, Breakthrough Success listeners? Mark Gehrig, the podcasting coach here, and we've got an episode of Second Chances and Living a Fantastic Life. We have two guests. We have a dynamic duo in this episode, and after you hear their stories and all their insights, I think you're going to be blown away because our two guests, they've got lives of second chances. So one of our guests, he is a world-class cosmetic dermatologist whose life collapsed in 2003 when he suddenly developed a foot drop. And as a result, he was misdiagnosed with ALS. Our other guest who joins us, she is co-author. She's also a former fashion model, accountant, and youth counselor who had a similar experience where instead of going through that other experience I mentioned, she endured being kidnapped, stabbed, and left for dead. So we've got second chances and really incredible stories, incredible insights from this episode. So definitely everyone give a big Breakthrough Success welcome to Dr. Alan Lycka and Harriet Tinka. It is a pleasure to have both of you on the show.
Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always wonderful to be on your show. Thank you very much for having us.
And I mean, just hearing just both those stories, the parts of it I was able to share, I mean, it's really incredible the stuff you two went through. And I'm wondering if you could share how you two crossed paths and how you recovered from the different things that happened to you.
Sure. Well, why don't you start, Harriet?
I'll start. I was going to university, and I was an international model in New York, and I had just given up that life because I finished working as an international model, and I went to school at the University of Calgary. So while I was there, I met a student who became a good friend, and later on he became very much obsessed with being my friend and didn't want me to be friends with anybody. Anyway, to make a long story short, he kidnapped me. He stabbed me and left me for dead. But I didn't let that stop me from having a good life. And how about you, Dr. Lycka?
Well,
share your story?
back in 2003, I was walking in Disney World with my wife, Lucy, and all of a sudden my wife turned to me and said, "What's wrong with you, hon?" And I said, "There's nothing wrong with me." And she said, "Yes, there is. Listen to your foot." And I said, "What do you mean, listen to my foot?" She said, "Your foot's flapping." I said, "What do you mean flapping?" She said, "Your foot is slapping on the pavement. With each step you're taking, you've developed a foot drop." She said, "You better get it checked out." So after millions of tests, I went to see a neurologist, and he said, "There's only one thing that can make this diagnosis. It's ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. In 6 months, you're going to be dead. Get your affairs in order." Now, when a doctor tells you that, you either accept it or you reject it. And I rejected it. I said, "I don't know what I have, but it's not ALS." So I went and looked for an answer. In 2003, the internet was very primitive. It wasn't like it was now. And I found a doctor that had a story very similar to mine. And he was on his deathbed when a doctor from Texas came up to meet him and said, "You don't have ALS, David. You have Lou Gehrig's disease. You have a disease called chronic Lyme's disease. And guess what? If I treat you with an antibiotic, within a week, you're going to be better." Well, I phoned David, and his story was the same as mine. He got me to come down, and he started me on treatments as well. And since that time, I've been perfectly well, 2003 to 2019, with the 6-month death sentence. Now, I met Harriet because Harriet was applying for an award. She was applying for an award I was sponsoring called the Women of Distinction Award, which I used to sponsor for the YWCA. And Harriet and I had a common pathway. We had a common story. And we realized that it wasn't the death that we had experienced, the near death we had experienced. It was the secrets that we found out of having a fantastic life that was important. We were survivors. We were really important in getting through this path. And we found really, literally 20 golden pearls on how to have a fantastic life. So that's what we're writing in our book. The secrets of living a fantastic life, discover the 20 golden pearls within. And this book is just about finished writing, and it will be out in the shelves in probably a few months. So it's a good time to be on the show to start promoting it.
And I mean, it's really interesting how you two just happen to come across each other, and just everything you both went through, different scenarios. And it's just fascinating how instead of feeling like victims, you're championing this message. You're on a mission to help people live their version of a fantastic life. And I'm wondering, like, not to share all 20 of them, but what would you say are some of the big ones, those big pearls that you've learned around?
Harriet, why don't you go over how you changed your attitude from being destroyed to being a survivor?
Well, it's really not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens. What I decided to do is, when I was going through my low self-esteem, I met a little girl who had also been in a different situation. She had been in an accident. She was paralyzed from the waist down, and she had lost her parents. She was motherless, fatherless, and homeless. And she looked at me. I had told her my story. So she said, use what you've experienced to go out there and inspire people with your story. So to me, that was my turning point. I decided I need to share my purpose with the world. So some of the 20 pearls that we've come up with,
Why don't you share your favorite one there, Harriet?
Well, it's so hard to say. I would say my favorite one is enthusiasm and empowerment. Those are my two favorites.
Well, let's go through enthusiasm first. Enthusiasm is one of the most important things, Mark. If you don't have enthusiasm, I don't think you can get through a given day. Enthusiasm is the fire that burns in you. Enthusiasm is really the thing that speaks. And it's really the important thing that happens every day. And I'm going to tell you a little story about enthusiasm, because enthusiasm is so important. There was Fred the carpenter, and after being on the job for 35 years, he decided to quit. He had no enthusiasm left. He went to his boss, and his boss said, yeah, Fred, I understand. We're going to let you retire. But before you retire, I want you to do one last thing for me. And Fred goes and says, yeah, I'll do anything for you, boss. You know, I've liked this job for 35 years. It's been great. He said, I want you to build one more house for me. It's just a special house. No one else can do it but you. So Fred really drags his ass to work every day. He maybe works 2 hours a day. He barely gets the house done and barely passes inspection. And at the end of it, the boss said to Fred, well, let's get everybody together in the office here. You know, he gets everybody together. And he says to Fred, Fred, this is your last day on the office, and I want to tell you how happy I am for you and how thankful I am for you. Here's the keys to the house that you just built. It's your house. I hope you enjoy it forever as a token of my appreciation. So do you understand why enthusiasm is so important every day of your life, Mark? You never know when you really need it. It's something that's going to carry you out of the fire. Okay, go ahead.
So my other one is failure. Failure is basically something that brings you to the next level of your life. It's part of being yourself. And I know a lot of people are always afraid of failure. What I usually say is fear is same thing as failure. So face everything. You can either face everything and run, or face everything and rise. So our golden pearls teach people how to rise.
You know, I think people are afraid of failure, Mark. But you know, it's our failures that make us the greatest successes. Failures are our greatest teachers. Failures really help us to get to another level, far greater than any successes can. And I know that because I've been very successful in my life. But at the same time, there have been elements of failure. But failure is something we can overcome. Now, you know, fear is a funny word. It's an eponym. It stands for false expectation appearing real. Fear. And really, if we really are shaking in our boots, afraid of every moment, we never can progress forward. I think it's very important to flip that around and have courage in every one of your endeavors and every one of your meetings. You should really not be afraid of anything. I know a lot of people are being afraid of being on the radio. A lot of people are afraid of giving a podcast. A lot of people are afraid of their shadow. Well, you know, I think those are things we can really overcome. Remember the cowardly lion in The Wizard of Oz, how cowardly they were until they found that they weren't afraid. They really found that they had a lot of courage. How did they get it? By acting, by doing the things that were important. Now, being afraid or having fear does not mean you're not afraid. It just means you use that as a motivation to get beyond where you're at and get to another level of existence.
And I mean, Alan and Harriet bring really great points. Your enthusiasm is very vital. That's why I try to bring as much enthusiasm into each episode. I know not all these episodes are for all of you, but again, if you do like this episode, I would appreciate if you could leave a quick review. We're just going to throw that in there. But just this idea where you need to have enthusiasm, you need to take your work seriously and not let your fear hold you back from your greatness. These are all such really important concepts for us to grasp, and they are vital for us to living a fantastic life, because sometimes you let the fear steer you away from what it is that, on your final days, you will really wish you did. And our guests, they have that, they've had that near-death experience, and you reflect and you learn so much from those types of experiences. And I'm wondering, how were your lives before your near-death experiences? And what are some of the more significant changes that have happened since your near-death experiences?
Sure. You want to try and answer that one, Harriet?
I would say my life was just a normal life, go to school, take care of family, enjoy life, that sort of thing. It was nothing unusual that happened to me. I was just enjoying it and trying to inspire people along the way. But my experience definitely made me have a turnaround and a turning point in my life.
Yeah, my experience is I was a world-class cosmetic surgeon. And at that time, I was absorbed by my work, working 12, 18 hours a day. And I realized that there's more important things than doing that. I think it's more important than just making people look beautiful. It's important to get people to be beautiful. It's important people to realize that there is a better life out there, that they can really grab it, the bull by the horns, and really become a better person by understanding the simple messages we have. So our lives now are intertwined in that we're trying to get this message out of having a better life. And the better life comes from inside of you. Remember, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens. Those are key words. And I think those are words that everybody should realize. Taking baby steps to overcome the cause. If a person has a problem, if a person has worries, they can overcome them very easily.
And I mean, key things in both of your answers, it's just like a change in purpose. It's a heightened sense of what do I really want to be doing with your life? And unfortunately, so many people realize these things near their actual death. And these are things you want to think about now. I mean, you don't want to put yourself in a near-death situation to learn these lessons. I mean, for Alan and Harriet, this is just the way it happened for them. This was just a sequence of events that led to their realizations. But you can do this now. You can take the time to really think about what you really want to be doing in your life. Are you happy with the work you're doing right now, or is there something you got to change?
And another one of our golden pearls in that regard is thankfulness, Mark. Just think about all the good things you have. You're alive, you're breathing, the world is at your disposal. Now, you can really look out and be miserable about everything. You could be sad about everything, or you could be grateful. And I think one of the simple things people can do to make their life better every day is to start a thankfulness journal. Taking a journal and writing down 2 or 3 things that you're thankful for every day. Right now, Harry and I are happy that there's central heating in houses because it's so cold up here. Without that, we wouldn't be very happy.
Yeah, we talked about that. It's very cold where you guys are. I don't know how you're doing it right now.
Well, it's a survival mode right now, but the good thing is, this sort of weather brings the best out in people. It brings out the thankfulness people have.
And what's interesting about the book is each pearl, we have a conversation between the two of us, a story that everybody can relate to, and then a message. So the book is organized in that way. So everybody will have a purpose, and it will be very interesting because everybody can have a different message with every pearl.
As you heard the story of enthusiasm about Fred the Carpenter, we have a story in each one of our pearls so everybody can take it home and really understand it to a higher level. It's really a great little book. I think it's destined to be a bestseller.
I mean, storytelling is really great in any book and just in any concept, because we remember stories very much, especially if you tie them into a tactic and lesson. So, I mean, definitely Breakthrough Success listeners, go and check out that book. We will throw it in the show notes for this episode. It will be coming out at some point. But I'm wondering if you two could also share with us some of the other places we can find your work and follow you on your journeys.
You know, we have a website called Living a Fantastic Life. I'd love everybody to go there. We also are on Facebook, Living a Fantastic Life as well. We also are on Twitter. And come and follow us, because I think it's very important to see us, meet us, and we'd love to have you as followers. And as this book comes out, we'd love you all to be there with us. We'll be sending you messages and letting you know when it's coming out and getting you all excited about the rollout.
Because we're excited too. We can't wait.
Well, all those links will be in the show notes. Follow Alan and Harriet. Once again, though, thank you both for coming on the show. It was a pleasure having you on Breakthrough Success.
Thank you, Mark.
So much
this was lots of fun. Thanks for asking us.
Thank you.
Have a great day.